Hello and welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast, your go-to place for everything Rocket League with your hosts, K-Cube, AJ Binky, and Red. So lean forward, lock in, and get ready to go Boost Over Ball.
Is my mic okay?
Yeah.
My bad.
I mean, I'm still gonna like mess with the levels once we get in here, because I still have to double check every single time that we're recording and that all the levels are good and all that stuff. So new year, new mic, new camera, new Quilly.
Same Quilly, unfortunately. Still a silly goose.
Same Luka Doncic jersey.
Same Luka Doncic. I don't like wearing that one, so therefore it's going to be forever a hug.
Hey, it's fair. I mean, I got my. I guess the best way to say it would be Jersey Graveyard, because we got Renegades, doesn't exist. Team Liquid doesn't exist in Rocket League. Luminosity, which is now an APAC team, and that one is Space Station, the camo one, which is
Space Station's forever.
The snowmen. They've signed the snowmen, so
I love that signing so much. Words cannot express how much I love that signing.
It's certainly going to be interesting.
I had Scribbles in my fantasy league last season, and I was ride or die with him.
That's probably a pretty good pick too. He probably was not not worth a lot of.
It's very low value.
Yeah, exactly.
High reward.
Man,
let the kids play, you know.
Exactly. But I think the levels are good. We're recording. We're live on Twitch for the people that are here. You ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast. To listeners new and old, hello and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kyle, K-Cube, here on the left, joined by Quilly, who's that way. I have to point the other way on the camera. I forgot about that.
So it's one way or another. It's a 50-50 guess.
Yeah. I think I'm on your right.
You're Luka Doncic way.
Yep, I'm Luka Doncic way. And you're flag side for me. So, but how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. It's an honor, as always, to come talk Carball with my favorite people.
Hell yeah. Do you have a good holidays, good New Year, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, it's a very long one. The New Year's had to tone it down because Christmas was just so much pricey as ever. You know, it ain't getting cheaper. The more grandchildren, nieces, nephews that appear, the more gifts I have to buy. Also, the older they get, the more needy they get.
And the more expensive everything else, like just in general, is.
Yeah, inflation, man. You can't even the Rocket League market, the actual market, it's all cooked.
Everything's cooked.
How about you? How was yours?
It was good. Similar to you, though, not exactly relaxing. Spent a bunch of time with the family and got to do some fun stuff like that. But excited to be in 2025 officially. Excited to have RLCS back officially. CRL is back. There's a lot of good stuff going on for Rocket League, so I'm looking forward to getting into all that stuff.
Sure, that time of year.
Yeah, so we got a little bit different of an episode today. Kind of excited for this one. We did a little bit of legwork on this, but today we'll be doing a 2024 year in review of RLCS, CRL, Rocket League, like events, notable transfers, all of that stuff, like wrapping up 2024 before talking about CRL Open number 1 and the EU Open 1 qualifier, as we now know the top 16s that have made their first regional, and given a couple predictions about that. But first and foremost, a year in review from starting out with RLCS. We're not going to go super in depth. We're going to talk about some of the high moments, some of the teams that have been making top 4s, kind of all the stuff in between that's gone on with that. Starting out with major number 1. We're not going to do the regionals themselves. We're just going to go by majors. And in major number 1, for people who don't remember off the top of their head, that was the Almost Gentlemates perfect run. The perfect Swiss stage, they dropped no games, and they dropped 8 total games in the playoffs on their way to a major win, a underdog major win that no one really expected, taking down Karmine Corp and then G2. Our top 4 of that being Gentlemates, G2, Karmine Corp, and Vitality. So first and foremost, a fantastic showing from them. Do you remember much? We're going all the way back to like March on this one of last year. Do you remember anything about this?
Yes, I do remember tuning into it purely because just rooting for Gentlemate, seeing those pink jerseys. That was purely being a huge Seiko fan. I just wanted to see them win, and that's exactly what they did, and they did it in crazy dominant fashion. I believe that was their first major together,
Yes.
and it was beautiful because they just straight up cooked it. It was reminded me a little bit of the Moist win. I believe did they won their first major?
Yes, I think so too. Well, after being
Their
like Team Queso for a little bit, getting picked up, but yeah.
They got picked up. First one as Moist. They just went all the way there. Just a nice little Cinderella run. Low expectation shows out with high results, and that's the least expected comes out to win. But literally, I was rooting for him purely because of Seiko and the pink jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, kind of an EU like leftovers squad. At the beginning of the season, people weren't really sure what to make of them. Maybe had them top 4, maybe top 5 in EU, but they were on that bubble, and for them to show up the way that they did and win the way that they did on LAN was a tremendous accomplishment for them. So
it's like the only time they showed up.
Well, I mean, they were always there or around there, but never in that way again, like for sure. Mm-hmm. But moving into Major 2, that was one that didn't quite have everybody that we expected to be there, as we were missing, pretty notably missing Karmine Corp after failing to qualify for regional number 5. Dropping to SA and 100% in the open qualifier. They did not make an appearance at Regional 5, and because of that, combined with their performance in Majors 4 and 6, they did not make an appearance in Major 2. In London at the Copper Box, again, they were not there. Vitality was able to sweep through Swiss. They were top Swiss, but they got first rounded by Furia.
The infamous picture?
Yep. Oh, yeah. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. Team Falcons made their first Grand Finals appearance of the year, at least on the international stage, right? They won every single regional in their own region, but they made their first international Grand Finals appearance, taking down Gentlemates in 7 games to get there. G2 beat Furia in 6, and then Falcons in 5 to take home their first major. Our top 4 was G2, Team Falcons, Gentlemates, and Furia. Quite a different top 4 to what we saw the last time. You kind of start to see the emergence of Falcons, but then we started to talk about a little bit. Well, maybe was the moment too big for Falcons? What really happened, because they looked so dominant, and then they won. They won one game against G2, and G2's first international win in quite a while. So, props to them. Fantastic showing. They looked incredible, but we did not see the same performance from Gentlemates. I, quite frankly think that Gentlemates Falcons Game 7 series was probably the best of the tournament. Could have been a Grand Finals matchup, but the bracket didn't shake out that way for them. But what else do you remember about Major 2?
I believe, I don't know, this could be a crazy take just to undershoot them prior to this, but I feel like this was the emergence of Furia, and that all the teams had to respect them in the same region, because the taking down Vitality and how aggressive they were, the pure aggression, that was pure hatred. They won purely on hate of Zen.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that was the emergence of Furia in the SAM region. I think that was like their first notable moment that the tides are turning, and it's not just an NA, EU, and slowly emerging MENA because of Falcons competition.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it like Worlds 2022 in Dallas. We saw that Moist Furia series was the most watched of the entire tournament, and we saw the emergence there. And after 2022, Furia moved to NA to compete for the year, and that did not go as well for them as they had hoped. They were not able to perform. They were not able to make majors, and they moved back and took their rightful place as the Kings of SAM. And I think you're right. I think that the major number 2 was really where we saw, them, I guess, get that more experience, get their confidence back, really, put the flag that Sam is here to stay, that they're here to stay. So they're a dominant team in a pretty substantial region, and they had the results to back it up here.
Also, seeing an NA team win a major is always great.
Oh yeah,
Can never argue with that.
especially in London too, in hostile territory.
The copper box, that's their staple.
And then for RLCS, last but certainly not least, we have Worlds. We were both there. We both were taking some pictures, working at the event. The big headline heading into Worlds this year was Twisted Minds. They couldn't or didn't or couldn't, or who knows actually really why, could not make it to Worlds. And the next 4 MENA teams after Twisted Minds in terms of points finish had already made roster changes, and people were not willing to come out of retirement or to switch back to their old rosters to take that world spot. And so Oxygen from EU ends up taking the MENA number 2 spot to be the 5th team from EU to make the World Championships. And that kind of set the stage for some interesting predictions, just because you are getting a major region team filling in a minor region spot, even though it kind of seemed like we are getting some minor region spots to major regions anyway. But, from there, we have G2 and Falcons sweeping Swiss, dropping only 2 games apiece en route to, a dominant top 2 finish. After the third, Furia they had the 3rd, 4th place, and then the 4th, 5th place match coming out of Swiss. Furia finishes in 3rd in terms of seeding. They lose the 4th, 5th match to Karmine Corp, and then they lose the 4th, 5th match to BDS to miss out on having a second life in the tournament, just barely. But coming out of those matches, they get G2. G2 uses their second life after dropping Game 7 to BDS. They beat Furia, and then they beat Karmine Corp, both in 7. Both they had to foil a reverse sweep attempt after going up 3-0 in both of those series. We then have BDS taking down Team Falcons to go on, and then in 7 to go to the grand finals, where ultimately a lot of people remember the touch that never was, with Atomic and G2 losing in 6 to BDS, who wins their 2nd world championship in 3 years. Monkey Moon becomes the 2-time. This one we can talk about a little bit more. We were both there. It's a crazy atmosphere. What are your what do you remember? What are your thoughts about Worlds?
I remember the sadness of an NA team not winning in the championship. But it was a cool experience all around. Obviously, getting to be there, getting to be more involved, feel the emotion of all the games. Oxygen, obviously, being the Cinderella story of that land.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Archie before they found out was at 2 hours past 2 weeks in Rocket League, right? They were not grinding the game. So for them to have the showing that they did is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was very impressive. It was cool to see. Obviously, there's not a soul in the Rocket League community that's going to root against Joyo. Everyone just wants to see a smile on his face. And if you don't, I worry about you. But it was a crazy series. Literally every single series could have gone either way. And obviously Monkey Moon cementing himself as debatably the GOAT. And then proceeding to explode that team in 17 days. It was definitely a crazy time, and the high hopes, the high expectations was to see how Karmine Corp came out after not making major number 2 and having a not so great performance in major number 1. I thought everyone had their eyes on them to see how they would do, and they did obviously respectable. They made it to top 4. Obviously not making the top 2 or top 1 like they probably would have wanted. I can only imagine what Farah was doing to whiteboards after. But yeah, it was a crazy experience all around, and BDS showed out after taking out what EWC? Is that the other world championship in Saudi? That after winning that, after not really winning anything all season, and then coming and winning that on away territory, it was a crazy impressive feat. and they deserve all their flowers. But yeah, it was a crazy way to end off the season, and then kick off the craziness of free agency.
Indeed. And it's funny you mention it, because I have the next event that we have, not necessarily in chronological order, is the Esports World Cup. This took place 2 weeks before Worlds started, and we had some invited teams, all invited teams. That's Gentlemates, Alpine, BDS, Vitality, G2, but G2 with NAS and not with Beast Mode. Gen G, Space Station, Power with Chiefs with Jorias as their third, Furia, Secret, Falcons, Twisted Minds, Gaming Gladiators, XO Esports, Limitless, and Nikosi Ballers, and a massive prize money tournament with the winning team getting $200,000 and 1,000 club points, which the esports these esports organizations really kind of rely on some of the money that they get from this kind of tournament to help sustain them. And like the MVP, Jory, is getting $50,000 for being MVP, right? So they win $20,000 to split, 3 ways. So, and then Jory is $150,000 for being MVP. So not a bad week of work for these players. Our top 4 being BDS, Gen G, Falcons, and G2. Notably that roster being Atomic, Daniel, and Nas. Falcons and BDS are able to take down Beast Modeless G2. And set up a grand final Falcons are able to take down. Whoa. I don't know why I wrote what I wrote, but Falcons are able to take down the Beast Modeless G2 and set up a grand finals against BDS in front of their home crowd. And BDS make quick work of Falcons, taking them out in 6 games to win the Esports World Cup. So notably, this being for BDS, 2 world championships, or 1 world championship in 2022, a Esports World Cup, and then 2 weeks later they add a 2024 RLCS World Championship. So once we get to the end, to the news and the roster rumors or the roster stuff that happened, to wrap up, it'll make some of these even more confusing. But again, congratulations to BDS. They played fantastically after kind of coming out of nowhere. A lot of people were surprised, to say the least, that there was no Karmine Corps at this event. So we really hadn't seen Karmine Corps since regional number 6. It had been about 2 months at this point. How were they grinding? What were they doing in scrims? Who were they playing? Things like that. So certainly interesting. An interesting storyline that was headed into the World Championships. But what do you remember about the Esports World Cup?
I think obviously the elephant in the room is obviously Beast Mode not being there for personal reasons. Obviously, there's been that's been a reoccurring thing now. Is Beast Mode just not wanting to go to things because of personal issues? Obviously, it's personal stuff. We can't. It's not our room to be like, hey, you can't do that. But it's obviously something that's happening, and obviously, I think something this trio is going to have to take into account. But assuming it's all major RLCS stuff, he should most likely be attending it, so it's nothing crazy. But the obvious thing, if my mom had wheels, she'd be a car. But if Beast Mode was there, do you think there's a different outcome, and do you think World's outcome changes?
Yes.
Do you think G2 takes it?
Yes, I think G2 wins both.
You think G2 wins both? Because I definitely feel like they missed out on some crucial the momentum. I think BDS got crazy momentum, especially beating Falcons in front of their home crowd. I think that was a crazy swing of momentum for them, who haven't really done much in the season up until that point.
I mean, like you said, they beat Falcons in front of their home crowd, and then they turn around and they beat NA in their home crowd.
Yeah.
So, like, you're not going to get much more of a hostile crowd environment than against Team Falcons in Saudi Arabia, because, like, NA fans, right? There's G2, there's NRG, there's they have so many different teams that people are fans of, but in Saudi Arabia, it's Team Falcons and only Team Falcons. Like, that's super hostile. And I think that Beast Mode at this time was over the age of 18, so it was speculated that at past Esports World Cups, when he went with version 1, that because he was under 18, a parent had to go with him, and so the org paid for his family to come out with him, and that was something that he enjoyed. and so it was thought that he didn't want to travel that far by himself as a newly turned 18 human, and his parents were not going to get to go for free. And so I think that, especially with worlds that close, I think that he did not want to travel that far without his family to do that. So, I mean, slightly understandable, but like if you're G2, why don't you just pay for his parents to go? Like he probably cost you $1 million in terms of like org pricing.
Yeah. And then the obvious outcome of what happened after the G2, they're not even an NA team anymore. Sorry if I'm jumping too far ahead in this, but it's just, this is all like domino effects of things. Like what would have happened if beast mode was there? We could never know. They could have honestly somehow got upset way earlier in it, because beast mode could have been out of it mentally because of all these hula hoops and stuff that they had to go through to get there. And it could have all been differently. We don't know exactly what would have happened, but we can just speculate. And I can agree. I do feel like beast mode being there obviously is a huge game changer. Nas proved himself as a player in threes. He obviously has a team. Is he paired up with? I'm sure we're going to talk about that later.
Yes,
but Nas proved himself as a player and finding himself onto a main roster that we will get into later. So, that unfortunately beast mode not being there can't change that. But BDS, against all odds, literally against the home crowd, comes out victorious, coming out victorious against another home crowd.
So I did a little bit of research here. G2 finished 9th in the org club, in the club championship, for a prize pool of $450,000. Had they won Rocket League, which I think that they would have had they brought beast mode.
Have they won Rocket League?
Like if they won Rocket League, right? That's 1,000 club points instead of the 250 that they got, right? That's a 750 club point swing, puts them in third. And the prize pool for third place was $2 million.
Yeah, pocket change.
So that's $1.5 million in change that they didn't get by beast mode not going.
I feel like they could have worked up that money if it was really that much of a problem. I feel like there had to have been something going on.
I mean, I would tend to agree, but that is potentially a different topic for a different day. We've talked about doing a what if series, similar to like how Marvel did it on Disney Plus. But like, what if AJG didn't miss that open net? What if beast mode went to EWC?
Atomic hit that ball.
Exactly. What if Atomic didn't ghost hit that ball? Yep. But like, there's a lot of them, and they can change the course of Rocket League, right? Because if G2 wins Esports World Cup with beast mode, and they get their $2.5 million, and then they win the World Championships, do they leave? Who knows? Are they able to secure a different name partner and are able to stay in the esport? Who knows? There's a bunch of knock-on effects about that. So certainly a different topic for a different time. So, but with that, we will jump into our next topic, which is CRL. We talked about CRL a little bit less than RLCS on the podcast, so we will be doing a little bit higher of an overview of it. So we'll be doing the top fours and talking about the winners for each event. So in CRL Fall Open number 1, your top 4 was Northwood Blue, Maryville, Concord, and Fisher. Maryville are able to win 4-1 after they got bracket reset in the first one by Northwood. These are all double elimination brackets. So if the team from the lower bracket beats the team coming from the upper bracket, then it resets the bracket and they play another best of 7. So Maryville win 4-1 in the second grand final series to win Open number 1. In Open number 2, our top 4 is St. Clair Green, Concord, Ball State, West Virginia. Concord is able to bracket reset St. Clair Green and win their first Open. They won the first series 4-3. They won the second series 4-3. So playing the absolute most Rocket League possible on the day in the grand finals to win. In Open number 3, our top 4 is Akron Blue, Northwood Blue, Concord, and Fisher. Northwood Blue falls just short of completing the bracket reset against Akron, losing in Game 7 of the second series to give Akron their first Open win. And last but not least, we have Open number 4 with the top 4 of Northwood, Blue, Concord, Maryville, and West Virginia. Maryville are not able to finish the bracket reset after sweeping Northwood Blue in the first series. They are then swept in the second series by Northwood as Northwood takes the win. So notably, that's a different winner for every open. We have Northwood Blue for 4. For 3, we have Akron. For 2, we have Concord. And for 1, we have Maryville. So kind of really set the tone for the Fall National Championships. I'm not sure how much of CRL you watched, but is there anything that stuck out to you from CRL?
I can say I have never watched CRL really that closely, but I believe the Akron team should get LeBron James as a mascot.
I mean, that would be fair.
Purely just because he's a kid from Akron.
Yeah. Well, that set the tone for the Fall National Championships, notably not the World Championships, but the Fall National Championships, which was just a single elimination, best of 7, top 8 tournament. So we got a top 4 of Northwood Blue, West Virginia, Concord, and Maryville. Stop me if you've heard this before. It's pretty similar to most of the other top 4s we've gotten all year. Concord are able to take down Maryville in 7 and Northwood in 6 to win their first ever CRL National Championship. That series against Maryville was a fantastic series to watch. If you haven't and you're looking for something to do, I would recommend going back and watching their run. It was truly some impressive Rocket League and a great series. So congratulations to them on the first ever Under Blast, first ever CRL National Championship. And we will talk here a little bit more in depth about Open number 1 for the spring circuit for CRL. But congratulations again to Concord. Okay. Last, but certainly not least in terms of tournaments here, we got the FIFA eWorld Cup. Rocket League made its debut in this tournament, and most notably for those NA fans, Team USA did not make it out of their group with the roster of Reddles, Cheese, and Magic Bear. The original Team USA roster, which would have been First Killer, Atomic, and Daniel, again, no Beast Mode. Beast Mode was building a house, and so that's why he bowed out of that tournament. But again, I have to preface this: we don't know for sure. But in my personal opinion, and also people know that I'm not a huge First Killer fan, but in my personal opinion, we saw Atomic and Daniel willing to compete with Nas at Esports World Cup. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be willing to compete for Team USA again. Like, things could have changed, right? Maybe there's a sour taste in their mouth because of what happened at Worlds. Maybe they just don't want to compete. Who really knows? But in my personal opinion, you get the announcement that the team no longer wants to compete or wants to make the trip. To me, that sounds like First Killer. But again, I have no knowledge or like insider information on that one.
Yeah, it was really heartbreaking when that news dropped because, like, even with First Killer, obviously the people on the show, not a big fan of him, but he's still a huge stat. He's still a great replacement, a good option. Definitely a better player than Nas, in my opinion. So I definitely think the outcome would have been a little better. The competition obviously is going to be a little bit harder because this is the nation's best players altogether. But yeah, it was truly not a good feeling. And as a doubter of RMC going into this, it sucks to say, but I was right.
Hey, I mean, we talked about it. We talked about it on the podcast before they went. You were on that one. We talked about the FIFA eWorld Cup. We talked about really, like, we weren't super high on RMC and Team USA's chances. So I was, intrigued to say the very least about what they were going to do. And in my opinion, that First Killer, Atomic, Daniel go from, guaranteed top 2 in their group to they're going to need a couple of results to go their way to be able to make it. And they did not make it.
I was questioned. My intelligence was questioned when I said they weren't a top 8 team. Gosh dang it, they were not even.
They were very close, but not quite. But also, Like, and this is absolutely zero shade towards Red Hills Cheese Magic Bear, right? Like, the country called and they answered, so like I blame them zero for taking the opportunity and going. Right, I would have done the same thing if I was in their position. They're not necessarily the first choice, but they're definitely not the worst choice. You know, they did Team USA proud as far as I'm concerned. They competed their hearts out. You know, I know a couple of them were sick throughout the tournament. They put in their best effort, and, you know, they got really close. So, again, no shade towards them whatsoever. It's just not the absolute best roster that could have been sent by the U.S.
Yeah, the competition was just too stiff for a mid to high tier regular NA roster to be going against all of the best players from around the world.
Yeah. So with that being said, our top four was Saudi Arabia, which was Team Falcons. We have Brazil, which was Team Furia. We have France, which was Zen, Vatira, and Monkey Moon. And we have Morocco, which was Itachi, Nas, and Raleigh. Saudi Arabia was able to make quick work of Brazil sweeping them. And then Brazil and France. But France beats Morocco in 7. Saudi Arabia then beats France in 5 to win the the FIFA E World Cup, to win their first Grand Finals of the year, to kind of get the monkey off their back, so to speak, in terms of Grand Finals performance. So what did you think about the playoffs of the FIFA E World Cup, and were you surprised by the results?
Definitely surprised, because obviously Team Falcons struggled in the big moments going into this, and not just they also they weren't even doing that crazy well in the placement match, their placement matches, qual matches. They weren't even doing anything crazy there too. They were just taking care of business, keeping things. I think a lot of them were. I think they had a lot of 1-1s.
They had a couple more than they should have, in my opinion. But
yeah. But then as soon as like the best of 7 series came around against Brazil, sweeping them, I did not expect to sweep, and then to take France down in 5 was insane, because the scoring of the games, a lot of those games were multiple goal differences.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They were dominating. They were firing on all cylinders. They were clicking. It was crazy to see them, and in front of the home crowd. I'm glad they finally got that win. Right? That was in front of the home crowd, right? I believe.
Yes, it was in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like that, they finally whatever they felt from EWC, and especially going against Monkey Moon, who gave them the loss in front of their home crowd, probably felt good to do that. And it was dominant fashion by TK, and the team itself showed out that the perfect moment finally, and got a crazy dominant win. It was good to see Morocco get that far, though, and also almost take down France, who was the scary juggernaut going into this, who was dominating everyone in their qual matches. But it was cool to see them get as far as they did. I did have a lot of faith in Belgium, and they showed out definitely higher than everyone else expected.
For sure. Yep.
But I had a lot of faith in his name's now
Atau. Yeah, Atau. The Belgian team was Atau, Compact, and Astral.
I had so much faith in Atau holding that team together, and he did that. They were a crazy, great team together, and made it farther than everyone else projected. But yeah, that was a great. You can never argue with some off-season car ball.
No, and
it was great games all around.
It just showed how dominant Falcons were throughout the end of the tournament, because they did a MVP for every day of the tournament. Day 1 was Zen, day 2 was TRK, day 3 was Rawas, and day 4 was Clears. And your overall tournament MVP was TRK. So, of the 5 MVPs, Saudi Arabia got 4 of them. So
they're a great team.
They certainly were. And then the last. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think they keep this forward? Do you think they keep this momentum?
I think they do. I don't see any reason not to.
All right. Well,
I mean, it's a long time to keep the momentum, but certainly they got to be, their confidence has to be pretty high.
Well, aren't they? They're in the MENA region, right?
Yes.
So they're going to be going against all these new-founded super teams that are just forming. We're going to talk about later. Keep forgetting about that.
Yeah, against the other MENA team that they put together to compete with them. But Now we'll talk about a couple of the notable roster changes and news that we had from 2024. First of which being BDS, after winning 2 of the last 3 World Championships in Esports World Cup, will not field the team for RLCS, at least for Split 1, citing monetary issues and profitability of the esport, which again understood, which then set the floor for G2 to also leave RLCS and basically put their team up, like, not for, I don't know if for sale is the right word, but like basically making their team free agents, and facilitating whatever kind of transfer that happened, which then led NRG to pick up the former G2 roster, which fans have now been dubbing NRG2. And Ninjas in Pajamas make a region transfer, not of players, but of the entire org, picking up a new EU team of Itachi, Nas, and Oski. So almost Team Morocco. You're just missing Drawley, who was picked up by Carmine Corps to pair with Vatira and Atau, dropping Rise. Vitality pick up the 2-time world champion Monkey Moon and Exotic to play alongside Zen, dropping Radosin and Alpha. And again, these are not all of the moves. These are just the most notable ones of world champions, of orgs, of mainstays of RLCS moving or leaving. So what kind of stuck out to you the most about the changes that happened?
I mean, obviously, the biggest one is BDS, after winning 2 of the last 3, just imploding and just getting rid of the roster altogether. It was a crazy move, not even to not keep any of them and just like let the whole team just go and the entire interest in Rocket League just go, because obviously there's been monetary issues and it doesn't look like it's getting better at the moment, but we can, fingers crossed, hope and pray. It seems like some things maybe turning around. Things are getting there. Obviously they're going to figure out in due time, but a bunch of the amount of roster moves this offseason just felt like a game of chess is being played in my head. I don't know what the right game is, but it's just absolute chaos going on right now. There are amount of moves going back and forth, and people are pretty much just going wherever, teaming up with all their friends. Amount of people jumping and being imports. I feel like imports were huge this offseason, especially compared to in the past.
Well, I mean, just think about how quickly BDS fell apart. Like the team got pillaged by Vitality and Carmine Corps.
17 days. Yeah. 17 days after.
After a world championship win, they said, yep, we're out. See you guys. Bye.
And obviously, now we have an answer to when our NRG plays.
We actually do.
And it's gonna be in the prime moments, because they're still probably the best NA roster.
I don't think it's close.
Unfortunately, I don't know what NA's got going on. I think we gotta work on our depth here.
We'll find out a little bit more in the coming weeks. But that sets the stage for the last recap items that we wanted to talk about, which was the Rocket League changes. First of all, Blast taking over RLCS production. We found that out like the very beginning of January of 2024. It seems like almost a lifetime ago. But all in all, I think they did a fantastic job. I think that, it's certainly trending in the right direction. We already have all of the dates of all the events for the entire season. We don't know the place for Worlds or Major Number 2, but we know everything else. They've added some cool stuff to the stream. The in-person lighting effects and pageantry of the events have really leveled up, in my opinion. From there, online free play has been added, which is something that probably should have been in the game for a long time, but nevertheless, it's in the game now. Boost meters for your teammates on their nameplate. And last but certainly not least, increased communication with Psyonix Epic Blast, whichever it is that you would like to pick. We know about all the RLCS event dates. We know about the 1v1 circuit. They're being more forthcoming with off-season events. They're trying to really nail down a timeline so that allows third-party tournament organizers to plan more events for, Rocket League to continue their trajectory in terms of being a part of the Esports World Cup, in terms of being a part of the FIFA E World Cup, as it announced, that they're going to be back as well for that. So a lot of good things came out of 2024, and it makes me really excited for what we're going to see in 2025.
It can only go up from here. I feel like, especially after another season or having a season under their belt, Blast is going to get a better idea for what's going on with Rocket League. They can bring their knowledge from all the other esports they handle to Rocket League and make Rocket League great.
Indeed.
Again.
Yeah.
I have to put a pause there. I don't want to get
Again.
canceled.
Yeah, no, I get you. Okay. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to add about our 2024 year in review for Rocket League before we jump into CRL?
No, it was cool to watch. It was obviously great all around. Great season, and the fact that like Blast did that, and now they're only expanding on it, especially with the 1v1s as you mentioned.
The last chance qualifier for Worlds.
That the last chance qualifier Worlds. How much they made it so much more of an open entrance, open access. Anyone, it's anyone's game. A lot of teams are qualing that you don't even have orgs to have a fighting chance at this stuff. So I think the sky is the limit for where Rocket League can go, hopefully. And stuff's gonna get crazy.
It certainly will. But moving into CRL Open number 1, after the national championships in the fall, Concord crashed out to Northwood Blue in the lower quarterfinals, setting the stage for your top 4 of St. Clair Green, Akron Blue, Maryville, and Northwood Blue. Maryville are able to reset the bracket after winning the first Grand Final Series 4-1, but are unable to complete a full bracket reset as they lose the second series 4-1 to St. Clair Green. And St. Clair Green is your Spring Open number 1 champion, with the new roster of Jazzy, Arju, and Pizzy, bringing in Arju from EU for CRL. They were able to beat that Maryville roster, which consists of Relating Waves, Speed, and EXO. So lots of exciting CRL to come in the coming weeks. We'll keep you posted on that. If you are DJ TJ, friend of the show, has been doing the Concord University team streams. So if you are interested in following their run with his casting, which I highly recommend, check him out at DJ TJRL on Twitch or on Twitter. But after that little plug, was there anything that stuck out to you about CRL Open 1, or are you ready to jump into EU Regional 1?
If you want CRL knowledge, I am unfortunately not the guy.
That's fair. Hey. Yet again, another new open winner for CRL. We've had now 5 opens this year and the school year, and 5 different winners. So that part is kind of cool for the parity of the esport. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. But next, and last but certainly not least, we have regional number 1 for EU. The qualifiers happened. We have our top 16. Our top 16 being Carmine Corps, Ninjas in Pajamas, Gentlemates Alpine, Stormtroopers, which is the team of apparently Jack, Jorias, and Stizzy, Tanaka, which is the team of Archie, Joyo, and Oli, RPG, which is Goffs, Rizex, Risefox, Synergy, which is AJG, Dorito, and Tekoz, Vitality, 100%, which is Lewis P, Acro, Rezi, Redemption, which is Cash, Smokes, and Toxic, Save the Game, which is Astral, Extra, and Mitzer. We have Caliente making his RLCS re-debut, K-Dop, Sazen, and Growly. We have Start Point, which is a Chronic with a K at the end, Matane, and Yujin. And we have Novo Esports, which is Hyder, Dead, Mala. We have Selecao, which is Ever, Rusties, and Mako, which is a full French team. Always got to be on the lookout for those. And then last but certainly not least, Ascend with Gwick, Matt, and Nico. So lots of notable names, lots of people we expected, lots of people that maybe you haven't heard of before. Who were you most surprised to see make this top 16?
You could pretty much throw a dartboard at any of these crazy names and pick any of them, but I think I don't even want to try butchering these names, but Saleko making it, I think, was pretty crazy.
I think so too.
And Caliente.
Yeah,
I believe it was Caliente.
Yep. It's weird to see seeing K-Dop again in the main event. It happened once last season, but he's been a mainstay of the esports, so good for him for finding a team that has helped him get back to the regional main event. Hopefully they can perform better than last time, going 0-3 every time that he's made it. So maybe Seizen, who kind of got the short end of the stick when Zen was coming in for Vitality in their World Championship year. They dropped him instead of it was between him and Radosin, and they ended up dropping Seizen, which seemed to be the right move as they won a World Championship. But he has not been able to find any permanent or stable home for the rest of the year. So hopefully this is the jump that he needed for his career.
Sir, can we add that to the what if list? What if they pick Seizen?
That is another good one.
Do they still sweep an entire season?
The world may never know on that one. But
No.
the next should be. Yep, there we go. But the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make some predictions here for the teams that are going to make top 8, the teams that will make top 4, and who the winner will be. So the way that it worked for this particular event is since there were 2 Swiss stages, you had 8 teams qualify from Group A and 8 teams qualify from Group B. And so there will be a hybrid, or it'd be a double elimination style bracket with 4 teams from each group qualifying into the top 8, similar style to how we saw the World Championship. So if you had to, we can go through together and kind of pick from starting out from Group A, which 4 teams are going to make the top 8 from Karmine Corps, Gentlemates, Tanaka, Synergy, 100%, Caliente, Novo, and Ascend. So I mean, there's 3 to me that stick out pretty quickly in terms of teams that I think will make it. But
obviously you got the K Corp, the Ninjas. Oh, not Ninjas, the Gentlemates.
Yep.
I feel like Tanaka, after having, I think getting Oli, I don't know how well that's gonna mesh and a difference to Oski, but it's really a hard choice.
Yep, I think
who that 4th one's gonna be.
So, because I think we're in agreement, it's KC, it's Gentlemates, and it's Tanaka that are going to be the 3, and then really it comes down to who do you think can get hot. I quite frankly think it's going to be Synergy. I think that they have World Championship pedigree in terms of making lands, so that's who I am going to go with. That is AJG, Dorito, and Tech Oz. Tech Oz, notably a kind of up-and-comer, really mechanical player. I think that he will help them get over the hump and make our top 8 here.
Yeah, I was definitely between Synergy or Caliente, so I'm just gonna jump ship with you and jump onto your ship and take Synergy with you.
Okay. And those are the top 4 that we have from Group A. Now moving on to Group B, we have to pick 4 from Ninjas in Pajamas, Stormtroopers, RPG, Vitality, Redemption, Save the Game, Starpoint, and Silicao. I mean, I think an easy one for me is Ninjas in Pajamas. I think that they're gonna make it. I like
those Vitality bums, no chance.
Vitality is my second one in there. I like Stormtroopers, which interesting that they haven't found an org to represent them yet, but Stormtroopers is apparently Jack Joria's and Stizzy, the former Dignitas roster. So with that, I think, again, it's a similar situation to kind of Group A. Now you got kind of the best of the rest in terms of who you think is going to make the run. And for me, I have Redemption.
Ooh, I have Save the Game.
Okay, so you also have Ninjas in Pajamas, Vitality, Stormtroopers, and then Save the Game is who you're going with?
Yes, probably. I think Save the Game would be my 4.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. So from there, we will then have 4 teams. Oh, no, we have our top 8. Okay. Now we get to predict our top 4 without knowing what the matchups are going to be. But I'm kind of going, I got KC, I got Gentlemates, and I got Vitality. but there very much could be like some friendly fire in terms of these teams playing like in quarterfinals or something like that, and not making top 4. But the last team that I have there is going to be the Ninjas in Pajamas roster. So that is the top 4 that I have without kind of doing, taking into consideration any of the fact that there could be friendly fire.
Yeah. Pretty much the same. You honestly have to go with the same because there's literally no predicting who's going to face who.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Bet for those 4. You can never go wrong. You can't go. I mean, you can go wrong, but the odds of you going wrong are significantly lower when you go with those 4.
Yep. And then I'm going to put you on the spot first, and we're going to do who do you think's going to win?
Do I have to say Vitality?
I wasn't.
It's between them. I feel like them are obviously K-Corp, but sleeper pick Gentlemates
or Ninjas in Pajamas.
I don't have as much faith in them. I mean,
okay.
I don't have as much faith in them. Itachi's a great player. I feel like he can get in his own head sometimes. Nas, it's going to be a big year for him under a team. Especially after the EWC showing. Oski coming from Oxygen, right?
Yes.
So I think that is going to be their first thing together, which was the recipe for greatness for Gentlemates. So it really it could go any way. What if I'm just going to give it to Vitality because
okay,
purely just because it's a lame choice, but you can't argue with 3 top players. I do feel like Exotic, his ability might. I think he might have been a little exaggerated in his ability. I think his EWC and World showing was. I think it might have been lightning in a bottle for him.
You think so?
Yeah. So I think if they do lose things, he's going to be the scapegoat. He's going to be the Radosin or the Alpha. That's who they're going to blame because obviously you can't blame Zen and obviously Monkey Moon, the GOAT.
Yeah,
but I do feel like if they fall short, I feel like Exotic's going to be taking a lot of blame.
I think so too. Although it's tough because he is the world's MVP. So he's a fantastic player in his own right, and I've been saying this since the beginning. We had a kind of a reply war on Twitter the other day, that. Some people were saying G2 is not a top 4 team in the world, and as of right now, I think that they are. All you have to go on is the Worlds last year, which they finished second. Their worst finish in RLCS all of last season was second. Right? I think you definitely have to take Falcons into consideration as that number 1 team, especially winning the Esports World Cup, even though that's not exactly the same kind of format, but they looked phenomenal. And I think Karmine Corps, Vitality, Ninjas in Pajamas, and Gentlemates, I think they're going to be great teams. I don't know how long it's going to take all these teams to gel. Right? Like, they're new teams, and, like, I'm sure they scrimmed a lot. I'm sure they're playing on top of their game, but, like, I mean, is Zen going to conform to Monkey Moon's playstyle? Is Monkey Moon going to conform to Zen's playstyle? How are they going to get to, like, the end goal of what they want? Is Cassio going to be the one to kind of bring everything together for him? Can Farah incorporate Drali the way that he'd like to, instead of Rise? But there's certainly a lot to think about, a lot to talk about, and I'm very intrigued to see what happens this weekend of finally some more RLCS action.
Yeah, no, K-Corp definitely. I do think they are debatably or arguably the number 1 team. Purely based off having 2 of the best assisting players in Vatira and Atau. They're high IQ players in Drali. It being able to freestyle pretty much anyone. He's one of the best in-game mechanic players, in my opinion. His ability to just pull off flip resets and just put a ball in the net is insane. From above, he can do it from above the net. He's pretty much in the Worlds. He was pretty much pulling off what 2023 Zen was doing.
Yeah, I mean, you have 2 facilitators on your team to enable Drali to kind of do whatever it is that Drali wants to do. The only question is, can he be consistent enough for them to be a top team? So these are questions that can only be answered by watching this weekend. So, we kick off Friday, and we will have a regional winner by Sunday. So I am very much looking forward to watching some RLCS this weekend. But was there anything else that you wanted to add about RLCS before we jump into the last section for today?
How much faith you got in Stormtroopers?
Top 8.
Respectable.
Full stop.
Respectable.
Appjack is a great player. Jorias and Stizzy also good players. I think that they are a good roster. I think that being back in EU is going to be a little bit different. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of adjustment for Appjack after having played in NA for the entire season, but I'm intrigued to kind of see what happens with them, and I think that they are primed to have an org pick them up in the next couple of weeks.
I think Appjack relatively, that for their expectations, I feel like they struggled, especially for NA compared to EU. So I do feel like they might struggle back in EU because EU's a different ballgame.
It certainly is, but they are becoming more and more top heavy every year, every event seemingly, in terms of where the talent in EU lies. But with that, you ready to jump over to some roster rumors?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotta hit the song. So I feel bad playing the song when Red's not here, but that was in honor of Red. He'll hopefully be back with us next week to continue on with his favorite segment and everyone's favorite segment. But the ones we got for this week are the Ultimates, an esports organization out of Saudi Arabia, are expected to sign the trio of First Killer, LJ, and Chronic. Their long search for an organization has seemingly come to an end in that regard, which is good for them, which is good for the esport. I don't really know what I would have done had they not had any representation heading into the season with what most people are considering to be the number 2 seed in NA with a bullet. We also have Twisted Minds confirming their roster of Nuepo, Rise, and Atomic with a K from EU for this split. Hope they are looking to solidify themselves as that MENA number 2 seed and try to compete with Falcons for that top spot in MENA, which I think is a tall task. I think MENA number 2 is probably where they'll sit. We have Pioneers are no longer in APAC. They've moved, or in OCE. They've moved back to NA, and they are expected to sign the team of JNAPS, Eris, and Aqua. Wildcard signed the roster of Torsos, Banana Head, and Fever. And notably, Noli has not signed up with a team for the first major for Split 1. And Alpha 54 also is not signed up. It is a little bit speculated that he might be in contract jail.
Is the next, is the Extra? Extra was held in a contract purgatory with BDS.
Yup. So Alpha signs a big extension, and then they drop Alpha and Radosin. Interestingly to me, though, Radosin finds a new team, and Alpha does not. So I don't know if he was signed to a higher contract or what, but it's interesting.
I definitely feel like that could be in play. I definitely feel like coming into that 2023 season, Alpha had a little bit higher reputation, a little more. I feel like he had a higher ceiling going forward than Radosin. Unfortunately, we saw that played out, and yep, now he is beat. I'm happy to see Wildcard get or Torsos and Banana Head and Fever. I think they're a great trio. Huge fans of them. I think they're underrated players out of the Aussie land.
The land down under, if you will.
Mm-hmm. They're playing upside down, but they're making it happen. I think JNAP's getting a roster is also crazy because how old is he now?
25.
Which is crazy to say because we're
25.
older than him. We're older than him, but in Rocket League terms,
Grandpa Naps.
He's like a 37-year-old playing basketball right now, pretty much.
Jeez, yeah, JNAPS is 25. He'll turn 26 in September.
It's just crazy how the esports world their aging is just rapid. You gotta get on top of that.
Adapt or die. Yeah, it's insane. I don't understand. I don't want to think about it because I'd be like, the joke is that Rizzo is ancient, so that must make me prehistoric.
Well, luckily you aren't competing, so therefore the age is relevant. Your ability to watch Rocket League and commentate on it is eternal.
As long as the esport exists, yeah. There we go.
As long as it does.
We'll see. But until that day, we will be continuing to cover RLCS, CRL, all other avenues of Rocket League that there are. Was there anything else that you wanted to add about roster rumors before we wrap up for today?
What do you think Twisted Minds does? I think they're obviously top 4.
Like internationally?
No,
Or
just me.
I think they finished. I think they're Mina number 2 seed.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty safe choice. Do you think they can beat? Who did we talk about?
Falcons.
Not deep. Yeah, Falcons obviously one of them. I can't remember the other. I think that's the only other.
Well, it was Twisted Minds before. It was like Nuepo, Mason, Ahmad, but Ahmad retired. I just think that roster is too good to not be the Mina number 2 seed. I think that maybe they have a series where they beat Falcons somewhere, but I don't know that they will be able to consistently do it.
Have you mentioned the first killer LJ Chronic?
Yup.
Joyo Archioli, they're going to Mina.
They are not.
The Geek Esports?
The Saudi organization signed them
but
in EU. Yes, correct.
Is the first killer LJ Chronic one? Are they NA still?
They are still NA, but they are signed to a Saudi organization, or are going to be, or expected to be.
I just need to fact check that.
You know, I had to do a double take on those as well. Yeah.
Twisted Minds, the other Mina team, I feel like they're definitely
competing in Mina.
Do you think they're a 1A, 1B, or do you think there's a clear difference between Twisted and Falcons?
I think there's a clear difference. I think Falcons are just a level, a step above.
Especially because that team's been together for how long now?
Exactly. And they just won their first grand finals, so the world's their oyster.
Yeah, hopefully things. But yeah, that should do it for me.
Awesome. Well, with that, we'd like to thank everyone so much for listening. We'd like to please remind all of you to rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts, share the show, tell a friend. It all helps us grow our audience and improve the show. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Twitch, which we're currently live streaming on right now, and come join our Discord. Make sure you support us by checking out our merch store and our Patreon, as this is how we will be funding the show and doing giveaways in the future. All of these links and more can be found on our website at boostoverball.com. And from us here on the show, as always, remember to choose Boost over Ball. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Make sure to check out our website at boostoverball.com.